Brought to you by McKay Photography Academy. Photography, travel, friendship, adventure. Visit McKayLive.com to learn more.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 68.
Welcome back to me, welcoming myself back. This is the episode where we see which or what melts down first, me or the Sony A7R II.
Why would you melt down?
That we're recording it. Well, I didn't mean melt down like, oh no! I meant melt down like, it's really hot. Now we cranked the AC right up until the episode began. But we've got that turned off now because for those who don't know, we don't have whole house AC. We just have a window AC unit.
Whole house AC? That's a very technical term.
What do you call it?
Whole house AC. Central AC?
Central AC. Thank you for correcting me there, Christina. Keeping me on track. This is the weekly photo show where we talk about all things photography, travel, photography related. We mish it all up into a ball and share it with you folks out there. I'm Toby, photographer and educator.
And I am Christina. I am a full-time wedding photographer.
And you should also start giving yourself the title of whatever this job is that you do here, where you kind of manage and make sure everything is working correctly. And your window looks very strange.
It does look very strange. I don't know why.
Not completely correct. So, yes, as I said, we are recording this episode with a Sony A7R Mark II, and I have to say, very happy with the way it looks. There are some issues with overheating. I posted on Instagram my solution to that. Now, I haven't run into those. I used this yesterday in a test situation, or actually for the Iceland gear wrap-up video. I recorded directly into the computer for 37 minutes. Actually, it was on and plugged in for over 40. It was very warm at the end of that, like very warm. Let's call it hot. I don't know. Somewhere is a line.
Let's call it hot.
And, but it was fine. We're going to be going for about 90 minutes or so. So I've got a little USB fan just blowing on the back of the camera.
So we may or may not be out $3,500 by the end of this episode, is what he's trying to say.
When it overheats, it just turns off. It doesn't like melt into a lump of molten A7R Mark II-ness. Now, it's very lucky that this camera works so nicely with our streaming setup because I haven't just shoved the GH4 to the side. For those of you who remember, its LCD screen was broken. So I thought, I'm not going to take it to Iceland. Why don't I send it into Panasonic Service Center while I'm gone to have that fixed, because it's very inconvenient to have a broken LCD screen. Sent it off via UPS to Panasonic. Hadn't heard anything while I was in Iceland. And I thought about trying to call the service center while I was there, and it's like, you know, it just was another thing I didn't feel like dealing with. On the way home, I'm talking to Panasonic Service Center, and they're like, we don't have any record of your case number coming in. Do you have a tracking number? And I'm like, yeah, I got a tracking number. Dug up the tracking number. Holy moly, UPS. Now, to be fair, they've already given me a refund for this, but my GH4 went on a wonderful trip all over the country. Started here in Vermont, went down to Massachusetts, then it jumped all the way out to Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Oklahoma, back to Colorado, and then to Texas. It arrived at the service center today. I sent it August 5th. That's the first time UPS has really let me down. They've been good till now. I know in the past I posted something slightly inflammatory about FedEx, and a lot of people came to FedEx not a lot of people, not like this is a very hot button topic on my channel, but some people were like, FedEx I've never had a problem with, but UPS, let me tell you. Well, here's the story that I'm adding to that. So, long story short, luckily, the Sony A7R Mark II seems to look really good. In fact, when we plugged it in, Christina, what did you say?
You should get rid of the GH4.
Yeah, you said that so quietly. I think one of the things that I was very excited about for the Sony was that it could fulfill several roles. The GH4 in the 4K video that I shoot for this channel. No, I don't always publish my videos in 4K, but it's really nice to have that, to be able to punch in when I want to. It just gives me some more flexibility. Also, was wondering if it would satisfy the role of just general photo camera walk around. It does that, of course, and more with those 42 megapixels and that in-body image stabilization. That's the key there. It's really so nice. And I wondered if it was going to be able to replace, I'll say, our 5D Mark IIIs in the wedding. We're shooting a wedding this weekend. It's coming along with me, and I will be shooting with it as much as I can and feel comfortable using in that environment. But some things that I experienced while in Iceland leads me to believe that it is still not ready to replace the 5D Mark IIIs for a wedding.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Why do you say definitely not?
Well, I still haven't tried the Sony with the Metabones adapter, but the one that I did try it on with, the other adapter that you had, is basically garbage. It's like, it does not focus at all.
Yeah.
And you have to manual focus the entire time, which is doable unless you're photographing a wedding. So there
are even aspects of a wedding that you could.
Yeah, but not for me.
No. Right.
So.
Yeah. That said, the amount of improvement in focus, especially with using a Metabones adapter in Canon glass, is amazing. You know, was it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I published a video, Sony A7 with a Metabones adapter, and I was like, wow, this is bad. I mean, it's so slow, you might as well manual focus, hunt. And now we've got a system where in good light, 99% of the time, maybe 98% of the time, it is just as good as the Canon DSLRs. I heard some people say better. I don't know about better, but it's just as good. You really had very few problems in Iceland with it. And that's really pretty awesome. One of the other cool things about the Sony is all of the additional focus methods it has, like eye tracking and face tracking and a fallback to face tracking. Those are really cool. I'll be talking about those more soon. Downside is none of them work with the Metabones adapter and Canon glass. You got to be using native glass for those to work. So some of you might say, well, how do you have a Sony sitting on the table if you have a Sony recording? It's an optical illusion. This isn't really here.
Oh, stop it.
We ended up with two in our quest to make sure that at least one went with me to Iceland, and we will be returning one of these. But I will be keeping my Sony A7R Mark II.
I won't, probably.
Right. We're calling this yours, and it's going back.
Yeah.
I will say this is our gear on the table segment.
G-O-T-T.
G-O-T-T. Do we have a little thing for that?
Not yet, no.
Oh, you're slacking.
I am.
This lens, this Sony 28mm f2 lens, it's really nice. There are definite downsides to working with these Sony cameras. People say, let's just jump ship, but you're leaving behind a lot of lens options, a lot of cheap lens options, and, well, do you really want to put a cheap lens on a 42 megapixel camera? But this is under $500, just under $500. It is a fantastic walk-around, full-frame, focal length lens. It allows those attachments. I don't know how useful those are, except that they do give you some other focal ranges. But I'm just really happy with this lens. A lot of fun. Very nice, lightweight, and that's, again, the benefit of having in-body image stabilization in here is this lens can be small and light, and that's nice. So I think I will be picking this lens up for myself soon. This is a review loaner. So, you're trying to do too much at once.
I'm trying to add.
Gear on the table?
Yes.
All right, so I'll keep talking about gear on the table. This Canon 5D went along with me to Iceland as well. This is a lovely camera. I really didn't use it that much. It was hard to put the Sony aside because, I'll tell you, the main reason, in-body image stabilization and this articulating screen. For landscape shots, I was able to shoot, in-body image stabilization, I was able to shoot some blurry waterfall pictures, meaning the water was blurry because the shutter speed was slow enough, handheld, without a tripod. That is sweet. Plus the articulating screen was just lovely. I'm gonna stop talking about the Sony though because I'll have a full review out by the end of next week is my goal. Very, 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 very nice camera, but it feels exactly like the Canon 5D Mark III.
Except with bigger files.
Except with bigger files. Well, there's more detail in the files. The detail out of these files is lovely. It beats the Sony by a little bit, the detail. But it's, you know, it wasn't exciting to me because it felt like the old friend, and this is the new exciting friend who comes in and wants to party all the time. And you're like, yeah, it's good.
Okay.
That analogy runs
to
out,
move
right?
on.
Yes. Trevor says, look how enormous this camera looks and feels, and it's true.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we don't need to carry these around for certain work. I'm not saying this camera, please don't say, oh, Toby just said this camera always beats this camera and no one needs to carry this anymore. There are reasons for these cameras. There are very good reasons for these cameras, and there are some situations where absolutely I would pick this camera again and again. Oh, I'll say one other thing. 2 times on the trip, this camera got wet enough that I was really kind of worried. But it's fine so far. Iceland can be very wet. Quite wet. So, Wicklet has got their A7R Mark II and love it. It seems like they're trickling out fairly steadily. Most people who want them are able to get their hands on them with maybe only a short wait if they didn't pre-order. So I had put in calls to several camera stores, and I've since, you know, heard from some of them saying, no, one's in, you read it? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Had a really nice conversation about Iceland with the one guy. So. Photo Nerds, aka Adam, says he missed you in Iceland.
I saw. I responded.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. So we can move on from gear on the table other than to say I still am in love with the LG G4. It was just really nice. It made it easy to shoot those vlogs. They weren't perfect, but they were certainly good enough that I was happy. I wish I had more manual control over video. They give it to you in photo mode. Why can't you have it in video? I found one app that looks like it gives you more control in video. It is called something. But it doesn't seem like it lets me switch between front camera and back camera. So what is this program? This is called Cinema FV-Lite. Well, I have the Lite version right now. Professional video recording app. So I need to write them and say, if I pay for the full version, can I have control over front camera, back camera? Because then that does give me some exposure control during video, and that might be nice. Might make a difference. A little smart lav plugged into this. It's just really, really nice.
Yep. So, is that all for the gear on the table?
That's all for gear on the table, except for the moonshine.
He wishes it were moonshine. No, you don't actually. Okay, so do we want to talk about in case you missed it, or is it kind of like blend in because you're already talking about Iceland, or? Well,
let's just say in case you missed it. I had lots of vlogs that went out over the last week, 6 of them, I believe, and I'd really like you to go watch them. I'm really proud of
go watch them.
Most of them.
I'm not in them, but you should still go watch them.
It's high praise. And I worked hard on those, and I like the way they came out, and we're excited to do more of that in the future. We'll be traveling in just under a month,
3 weeks.
And that's really exciting. So go watch those. And if you've got friends who are interested in Iceland or have been to Iceland, share them. Say, hey, look at this guy, he's been to Iceland. Have you been to some of these spots? Or do you wish you went to some of these spots? Or do you wish you went on a bumpy road for 1 hour, one direction? It was worth it, though. And what to say?
Well, there's lots of like little tutorials.
Yes.
Here and there, and you get to meet some of the participants and some of the people leading the trip, and so it's and they're very entertaining.
Wow, very entertaining. Good. And sample footage. You see sample footage from the Sony, from the LG, from the 5D SR, from David's GoPro mounted on his drone.
Yeah.
So lots of footage mixed in there as well, and I share that with you. That's the other thing, you know, I didn't do anything with the footage out of the box. I'm quite happy with it. I'll be, you know, working on that a little bit in the future, but otherwise just push the button and recording 4K and it looked good, which is nice. All right, and what to say about Iceland? if you like to photograph landscapes, it should be on your bucket list. Here, I'll keep this short because I said I was going to keep the Iceland discussion short. It is an amazing country. The variety of landscapes was awesome. The openness of the landscapes was awesome. And you know, around here, we're around, let's say around America, because that's what I'm most familiar with. We've got some cool places that have some beautiful landscapes. But, you know...
Watch out now.
But just like as far as the eye could see in every direction, you might be driving through what looked like a giant Zen garden. It's just fine gravel, which, you know, is small volcanic rocks. Just as far as you could see, and off, you know, off in the distance, a little bit of rollingness, and then beyond that, bigger mountains. But it was just amazing. Or, you know, one of the last days, the vlog where we're in the little cave. Above that was just all of these old lava rocks. It looked like a big parking lot that had been paved over and then mashed up with waves and then covered in 2 feet of moss. And it was just, again, off in every direction so far. Really quite amazing. We had, for the most part, some great weather, except, of course, for the day we had to make the ferry ride. But that was part of the adventure, and I think even the people that got really sick, Adam, you can chime in about this, it's a fun story to tell now. So, but that was some serious waves. They were serious. I said to myself, I do not get seasick. I do not get seasick. I do not get seasick. And then I fell asleep.
So along those lines, though, we want to encourage you guys to check out McKayLive.com. They are an awesome, incredible group of people who go out of their way to create just incredible photo trips for people to go on and go exploring a new place and learn how to photograph it as well. So I feel like I totally butchered that because I was kind of scattered, but I do mean that. I mean, these trips are amazing, and the people that go on them become great friends, not just for us, but for each other as well. And right now, you can sign up for their upcoming New Zealand trip, which we will be going on. So if you want to join us in New Zealand this upcoming February, head on over to McKayLive.com, and I am going to try to find...
January/February. It's right at the end of January
right
that we leave on that trip. That's right. There's just one spot available left on that trip, and you know, there's a person on, Elton, who was on this Iceland trip, has been to New Zealand, and he said, you know, if you love this, you're going to love New Zealand as well. Again, just some fantastic experience there. We're going to cover most of the country. It would be wonderful if you could join us. As Christina said, the people on these trips, you know, I was a little nervous when we first went to Italy. I was like, you know, what are these people going to be like that we're going to be stuck with for, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks? And they're wonderful people. They're people that go in at a rest stop, buy a giant pack of cookies, eat one of them, and then pass them all around the bus so everybody can have a cookie. And just check on each other, have fun with each other, tease each other. It's just, I can't believe that 3 times in a row, I guess I can now, that the people are just all so much fun that have been on the trips and have turned into friends. It's just a really cool experience. And the amount of learning that happens on these trips, and you don't have to be somebody who knows your camera. You don't have to know an f-stop from a shutter stop. I was going to say that, but that's not such a thing as shutter stop. I think that, you know, that's the other thing, and I've said this before. As somebody who's even as comfortable as I am about photography, I think if I didn't know anything, I'd be a little nervous about going on those trips. Oh, I'm going to look dumb, or I'm going to ask a dumb question. No, these trips are there for you to learn while you're traveling and having a good time. And people of all abilities are there. The ratio is fantastic. There was another person on this trip who was actually not a participant, but he's there as part of, they're looking at setting up some awesome partnerships down the road. And this was a person who knows a lot about other trips and other photography trips, and I was talking to him. The ratio the McKays offer on these trips is fantastic and is not You don't see that anywhere else. You don't get a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 instructor ratio anywhere else. And the instructors, like Adam, like the McKays, like me, like Christina, we're nice people. We're helpful people, and we love teaching. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. And now we're going to move on to a little bit of news.
News. Okay, getting distracted. If you haven't realized it by now, we are a little bit rusty from 2 weeks of not doing this.
I don't feel rusty.
I feel a little rusty.
Okay.
All right.
It's showing.
So let's move on to news. First thing we have lined up is iFixit tears down the Sony A7R II to find its secrets.
It doesn't really have any secrets.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But that's a catchy title, I guess.
It is a catchy title. DP Review shared this. I think it's interesting how mainstream iFixit has become. They originally started with kind of the iPad teardowns and the Apple stuff, but they have now, boom, you know, they're buying a camera that I wouldn't quite consider in the mainstream view because it's $3,200 and tearing it apart. I think you can again remember show notes will be linked right down below this video. They're not there right now for the live folks, but they will be soon. I don't know why I can't get them there before the live show. I should work on that. I think the most interesting thing to me, one is that the Wi-Fi antenna is in the little hand grip here. That's another nice thing about this camera. Really, you didn't have room for the Wi-Fi antenna in this little grip, Canon. Look how big this thing is. You couldn't put the Wi-Fi in there. Silly. Although you could argue, why do you want Wi-Fi in a 50 megapixel camera? Are you really going to be, or 52, whatever it is, you're going to really be sending files over? Well, yeah, you could send the smaller ones and share them, one of your friends and family. Sharing on the road is so much fun. The other thing that is cool is on page 15 of this, I don't know if we're, oh yeah, you are, thanks, is the steady shot sensor assembly in here. And, you know, optical stabilization blows my mind in lenses, let alone with the sensors as well. And the fact that it can automatically correcting for handshake is just awesome. What do they say here? It says, there's the sensor rear, here we go. The central tray of the stabilizer holds the image sensor and it's home to 3 electromagnetics, each a component of a voice coil, an electromechanical device used for incredibly fine positioning. Voice coils are also found in platter hard drives controlling the read-write arm. These coils and the magnetic fields of their permanent magnetic buddies, which means slight variation in power to the 3 coils, generates forces in a variety of directions. Enough variety to adjust the sensor on 5 distinct axes. Not a small feat for a full-frame camera. So that little sensor is in there, 5 axes. That's why the battery life is so bad.
No one saw you do that. You have to do it again.
Oh. I mean, it's pretty awesome, and it works well. You know, we wouldn't be talking about it as much if it was like in-body image stabilization, but it really only gives you 1 stop. No, this is serious 4 to 5 stops. They don't say 5 stops, but if you have steady hands, you can get down in 5-stop range.
So, I mean, not to go on and on and on about this camera, because I feel like we've already talked about it. You still don't have the review out yet, so, but is it a game changer? To me, it doesn't feel like a game changer. I was really hoping that it would be, and I don't think it's there yet.
It's a significant step forward in the game.
Okay, fair enough. All right, shall we move to our next story?
Yeah, I think people are going to want to know, though, why you don't consider it a game changer. I mean, here's a camera that can do 4K, has in-body image stabilization, has autofocus systems that, with native lenses, are awesome, especially in video, blow Canon out of the water.
Well,
but in stills, okay.
I think we should talk about that after you have the review up.
Okay.
So, okay, moving on. Canon rumors, nothing. We should be seeing an SL1 and a 1DX pretty soon.
Right.
Updates.
We had rumors of the August 14th date. That's come and gone with nothing new. Still some hope people are holding out that we might hear about a 5DX, some are saying, or 5D Mark IV in the October Photo Plus show. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Next on the list is awards digital camera awards given by the European Imaging and Sound Association, EISA. And the reason we want to talk about this is not just because Canon supposedly came out as winner in a lot of categories.
Like kind of the three main DSLR categories Canon cleaned up in, which is interesting.
But also because the video where they show one of the winning cameras, the 5DSR.
Yeah, so the 5DSR won for the European Professional DSLR camera of 2015-2016. And they've got a little, oh, I can't show it because my Adobe Player is out of date. Let's say run this time, will it work? So they got a little promo video here that we can run. Pay careful attention to this video. And what do you notice? It'll come back in a second. They're just talking about how it has 50 megapixels, amazing quality, and stop. What's she shooting with? What is she shooting with on that 5DSR 50 megapixel camera?
Not one of the approved lenses or recommended lenses for
That's
the
right.
5DSR.
I think, so what? It's just humorous. I thought that was pretty funny. I felt like a photo nerd when I noticed that. I was like, wait a sec, that is definitely not on their list. That lens is a decent value, but it is not up to a 5DSR level. Why don't they have one of their L lenses on there? They should put a Sigma on there. They should put their other award-winning lenses on it. So let's go through these awards real quick here. We've got the 11-24 f4 won for DSLR Lens of the Year. I think that's fair. That is, I haven't had my hands on that lens yet, but everybody says it's amazing. I thought about taking it to Iceland, but then I was like, I just don't like shooting wide that much, and I got that bulbous front end, so I won't be able to use the normal filter setup that I do, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you had access to the 16-35, and you didn't really use that one that much.
That's right.
So
yeah, I know. I agree. I am finding the more I shoot landscapes, the less I really feel the need to go very wide. Some other people do like to go very wide, but I feel like in that landscape, things kind of get diminished often. The prosumer DSLR camera winner was the 7D Mark II. It's a very nice camera. I don't know if it's the prosumer level camera.
I don't think so either.
So I don't know. Then the DX1, that's that funky little thing that plugs into your phone. Only the iPhone, that won their European Photo Innovation. The Fuji 16-55 f2.8 won their compact system zoom lens. The Fuji X-T10 won their consumer compact system. The Leica Q won their it's all European, premium contact camera. The LG G4 won the smartphone camera. Yes, I agree with that. Nikon D5500 won the consumer DSLR camera. I don't know, do we need to go the rest of these? The Lumix G7 did. The Sigma 24 f1.4 won for a DSLR lens. Wait a sec, how is that different than the professional DSLR lens? These categories are a little funny. And then the Cybershot HX91 for travel compact camera. Really? The 90 over the RX100 Mark IV? And the Sony Macro 90mm, I'm looking forward to testing that with a Sony body here soon. And the Sony A7R II won for professional compact system camera.
Yeah. All right, we need to move on to another news story.
We're moving on.
Roy added this story this week about one photographer's perspective from moving from Canon to Sony. So can you give us a gist of that?
Yeah, there's a nice little, this is on DIY Photography. They've got a nice little 8-point list of what they like about the Sony versus they have been shooting with a D810. Now they make note that they have not given up their D810 completely. They still use it in the studio scenes, but for general photography, walk around, like me, they're finding the Sony satisfies their needs very nice. The flip LCD screen with live view. Easy to shoot from far above, below, or from the waist without doing Kama Sutra with a camera. That's a little weird, you don't have to say that. All right, number 2, Wi-Fi transfer. Yes, I love that. Again and again and again. Go out, take a nice picture, get back on the bus in Iceland, transfer it to the phone, edit it in Snapseed, share it within 5 minutes. I love that. Does it make for a better picture? No, but it's fun and satisfying. 3, remote shooting with live view using a smartphone. Nice. Size and weight. Sony is smaller and lightweight. Now you can argue if you have to throw a Metabones on and a Canon lens on, then you're losing some of that small size and lightweightness. But generally, yeah, look at this. Well, it's not quite fair because it's a 16-35 versus just a 28 prime.
Yeah.
But
also, put the Metabones adapter on there and a Canon lens, and then it
well,
stops.
that's what I
Oh,
said.
okay.
Yeah, sorry. Face focus tracking. Yes, that is cool. Focus peaking. It's really nice. I shot in manual focus a lot of times. And the focus peaking works so nicely. You just watch that focus. It just makes an area white or yellow depending on how you have it set up. Move through your frame to tell if things are in focus. Focus magnification. Yeah, you can do that on the DSLRs, but yeah. And better dynamic range. Yeah. I have pictures from Iceland that look to me HDR-ish, and I only took one shot, and then I just brought the highlights down, brought the shadows up, and there's a lot of information in there. Does it blow the doors off Canon? No. But is it better? Yes.
More on that in a future video.
Yeah.
So next, I'm actually kind of excited about, even though I haven't really looked at it until right this second, but is this by Holdfast?
It is.
It is by Holdfast.
Yep.
So Holdfast, you guys might be familiar with their leather straps, which I have one. I've had one for like 2 years now, and I love it. And it allows you to mount 2 camera bodies on, and you wear it kind of like a backpack. It's just 2 shoulder straps. And you can actually put other accessories on there, and you can attach another bag. Anyway,
I think you look like a wind chime when you got everything hanging off you.
Okay. It's what I gotta do. I get lots of compliments on it.
Oh, no, you do. I'm saying if you were to hang off the accessory bags and the other bits, you'd look like a wind chime.
Maybe. I don't know. So anyway, so all of this is to say that they have now come out with a new strap that is fabric. It's made out of, actually it looks like, I'm gonna say like not necessarily fabric, but like rope. Like very thick. It's
like, I'd say webbing, right?
Webbing.
You can share my screen and we can show some detail shots here of it.
Yeah, and it looks very sturdy. Mm-hmm. And it is about $70 cheaper than the leather ones. So seems like a really good deal for a really comfortable
like $85
camera strap.
cheaper, I think.
And hopefully, maybe it doesn't pinch, like my strap pinches my arm a lot. Maybe this one doesn't.
Right, you've seen other people complain about that. Yeah, I'd say the one downside of your strap is price, and also maybe sometimes it pinches you a little bit. It does look good. You get a lot of compliments. I'd like to try this.
It's really comfortable.
Right. I've worn yours a couple times, but it's a little small for me. So I'm like, So, but now I'm going to be having 2 cameras at most weddings. Usually I shoot with just one, but I'll have 2 now. So I need one. So.
Okay. Next is somebody bought a fake Nikon DSLR.
Yeah, so the headline again is a little bit misleading. It's not a fake DSLR.
It's gray market?
It was gray market with an outside serial number that didn't match an inside serial number. So they had problems with it. They sent it into Nikon. They had problems with it after shooting for like a year. So normal problems, not like, something developed because it was fake. This headline really is quite misleading in some ways. Link bait, yes. So they sent it to Nikon. Nikon was like, the serial number printed on the outside doesn't match the serial number that's in the system inside. So we can't help you. So he had to go back to the place he bought it from and said, look, this is basically maybe stolen, or, I don't know how you guys got your hands on it, but you need to give me a new one. And he talked him into sending him a new one. He sent the old one back. There are a couple reasons I think it's a good idea to avoid gray market imports. Some camera manufacturers won't honor the warranty.
Well, so here's a question though that I was asked recently. If somebody purchases a camera outside of the country that they reside in, it's considered gray market, right?
Technically, yes.
Okay. So are they able to still send the camera outside of the country to the country that they purchased it in, and will they honor the warranty?
Well,
Seems appropriate.
Yes. I've never heard stories. We've heard stories before, and I've warned people before too. And Roy's actually got a really nice write-up on this about what to watch out for when buying camera kits, because there's other ones with lots of junk in them or junky cameras. So that'll be linked down below as well. But Canon, as far as I can tell, and as far as I've heard from stories, they don't care where you buy it. If you legitimately got your hands on the Canon and you've got this, they're like, yeah, we'll repair it. I mean, it might cost you something out of warranty or in warranty. They'll repair it.
Okay.
Same with Nikon, I believe, except in this case, they were like, we don't want to touch it because serial numbers didn't match. That is a separate issue from buying a gray market import.
Yeah, that's different.
So it seems like it might be a little more likely you're going to end up with one of these mismatched cameras buying gray market from a shadier store. But just buy from the country. Now, and if you've moved, of course, yeah, what if you moved? You're going to be able to get your camera repaired.
Right.
Worst comes to worst, you have to go send it back to the country, but you should.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Next is...
MIT created a camera that will never overexpose a photograph. This is neat with a really pitiful infographic. So basically, I like this analogy. When you shoot a scene, you've got all these little, we've actually talked about this analogy before, so they're using it again. You basically think of each of your sensor, what do you call these, each dot on a sensor?
Pixels?
The pixel? Diodes? Each little, pixel, diode, whatever.
Photons are what reaches the camera.
Yeah, is collecting light as it's coming in. Like rain into a bucket. And the longer you leave your shutter open, the more rain is going to come into the bucket. If you're taking a picture with a variety of different levels of brightness in it, some of those buckets are going to fill up really fast. And when they completely fill up, that is overexposed. But when they fill up only partly, then you've got data in there that you can see. Usually with our sensors, when the bucket fills up, it just fills up. And the sensor's like overexposed, don't know what to do with it. But this sensor says, that bucket just filled up, let me empty it. Oh, it filled up again, let me empty it. And it keeps track of these different spots that really fill up. Can't tell if she's just nodding.
I'm listening,
or
paying
thinking
attention.
about the chat room.
I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say next.
Okay. And so it says, that bucket filled up 4 times. I know how to adjust the exposure at that point to get the data. As opposed to saying, I don't know what to do, the bucket's full. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Cool technology.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're going to say. I agree.
But you are not really capturing... Although, I was going to say that you're not... If you allow the camera to control the, the overexposure or prevent it, then you're not going to get a camera that photo that's true to kind of what the scene looked like. But that is not true because our eyes have a much...
That's right.
Yeah, so...
How often do we look around a scene and we're like, oh, no data there, I can't tell what that is, it's too bright.
Not very often.
Not very often, no, I know. Our eyes are pretty amazing. So what I thought you were going to say, I'm going to channel you as this is cool, but we'll never see this in our cameras in our lifetime.
That was a great impression of me.
That was an impression of you when you're 80. And then I'll be like, see, we see that. So it's one of those things, it's cool technology. How long will it be before it's working our way into our sensors? I used to read popular science magazines as a kid, and I felt like so much of that stuff still hasn't happened. But there's progress. So it's neat. And it's just got the infographic on here. Can we share the infographic for a second? Because it's just kind of funny. There's a conventional camera with a rain bucket filled up. More raindrops coming. There's the modulo camera with a bucket half full and the raindrops still coming. That really doesn't tell you much.
No.
The The modulo cameras just always have the glass is half empty in the modulo camera. So.
Okay.
Roy wants us to know that drones can easily be hacked. This is another one of those.
This said hijacked, not hacked.
What's the difference when you're talking about a drone?
Hijacked is like stealing. Hacked is like getting into...
Hacked for the purpose of stealing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what hijacked means? Well,
in this case, it does.
Well, I realize that sounds a little silly, my question that is, but it does. Okay, never mind. Let's move on.
So just a simple story. This is with a little. So this is not DJI Phantoms, which use radio signals. That's harder apparently to work with. But this is these little Parrot Bebop drones that are kind of fun. They're the ones that really were first.
Bebop drones?
Yeah, little Parrot Bebop drones. You control them with your smartphone, make them fly around. Some of them have little cameras and things like that, but I don't think any of them, are big and used outside much. It just used simply Wi-Fi, and apparently somebody else can come along with another Wi-Fi device and kind of boot you off and take control. It's not quite that easy. You can't just like fire up your app and say, oh yeah, I want to control that kid's drone over there. But still, it can be possible. And so, I see things like this coming, and I see people, as safety measures, like the White House. I'm sure they must be experimenting with, sure, we got the no-fly zones that are supposed to be being built into these drones, but I feel like places like the White House and other high security zones must be working on something that they can like point at a drone and make it fall out. A gun. That's right. That's what they got. Just shoot. No, but there's got to be places where you can't really like shoot a drone out of the sky and you want it to be able to do something else, like, hack it, so make it stop flying or fly in the other direction or something. I don't know. So. Okay,
and now we are on to Quickfire News, which is the segment where we really quickly go over the million news stories that we cannot possibly fit into this podcast. Okay, first.
I think we have to be careful calling this quick fire. Jared's fro nose is like rapid fire news or something. Rapid fire.
Okay, really, 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 really fast news. Okay.
Very, very, very warm news.
Photos of your meal could be copyright infringement in Germany. This is from Roy.
Did you tell people what we're supposed to do now, what we agreed? I'll say one sentence about it.
Okay, so I will read the headline. You will say one sentence.
Can it be a run-on sentence?
No, it cannot. It has to be grammatically correct.
Basically, several years ago, a judge gave high-end chefs who make very unique food things copyright. And so if you took a picture of that,
more than a sentence,
you could be sued. But they're not going to do that. They're going to want you to share your pictures of their food all over the place. Silly.
Leica, and this is another news story, Leica M9 falls off balcony and breaks the ground. Yeah, you should go look at this. It chipped away a piece of the concrete. The camera landed on its metal lens hood, and that bent in some, but otherwise the camera seems fine. Now, what I want to see from that person is... like 10 sentences.
What I want to see from that person is some sample images. Is it all still lined up correctly? All those optics in there? It looks fine, and it really did bust off a piece of this concrete edge of the pool or something. Not that it landed in a pool.
Check it out. It's on Petapixel.
Yes.
And just to note that we have an article on photorec.tv about recommended hoods and polarizing filters for Canon lenses.
Yeah, do you know why that's right there now?
Because somebody put it there.
Because lens hoods are awesome for protecting your lenses.
Yeah.
That's why these cameras both have lens hoods on. I recommend lens hoods all the time. They do a much better job of protecting your camera than any UV filters will.
Okay. Another headline. This DSLR spent 2 years in a lake and the memory card survived.
That's right. As an SD card, the lady who lost it is not sure how it got into the lake, but the person who found it downloaded the images, realized, how they could connected back to the owner. Cool story. 2 years SD card submerged underwater inside the camera. Still works.
Trey Ratcliffe photo walk was derailed by police in Atlanta.
Yeah, technically they weren't the police. They were the park police of Olympic Park there in Atlanta. He was coming through with a very large group. They shut him down and said no professional photos allowed. Really lame park police. They, had to go someplace else. I think it's pretty amazing that somebody with as much pull and clout as Trey leading this photo walk still had to say, all right, fine.
I mean, they don't know who he is.
Well, I know, but yeah.
Like, I
feel like Trey should have gone on the phone with the mayor and been like,
the mayor doesn't
I'm Trey
know
Ratcliffe.
who he is.
I make beautiful HDR photos. You've probably seen them.
I mean, he probably hasn't. Like, I know he's really big in the photography community, but outside of that, anyway, okay. There's an iPhone case that serves as a ring light and battery backup. Wow.
Yeah.
Double duty. Triple duty.
It fits on your iPhone. I guess they have to make it for iPhone since they have much fewer to make for them, but I wish they had them for Android. The whole thing is a nice LED little light or a rectangle light, so you can use it for selfies, or you could use it in a pinch if you're trying to light a subject when you're taking a picture with another camera. And it's got a built-in battery that can charge your phone or run the LED light.
Last headline is fast CF cards tested.
Yes, I started to pull this out. I didn't see this card on the list. This is the Extreme 64 gig that I've been using in the 5DS. This is testing fast CF cards in 5DS or R, I don't remember which exactly, and looking at how much faster they are still than most SD cards. They're significantly faster. I think the winner was the other one that I thought we had around here is the Lexar 1066 speed. They found to be very good. So that's nice to know. A fast card we spent money on. They are still more expensive. They're a lot more expensive. I've got a 128 gigabyte fast card in
It's like a hard drive.
Here. Yeah, I know. I'm embarrassed to tell you how big my first hard drive was.
Not embarrassed is the appropriate word. Like you had control over that.
Well, it gives away my age. This card, what, cost me 60, 70 bucks? Can you see what it is? It's 128 gigabyte SDXC3 class 10. So it's that UHS 3, is that how you say it? And way cheaper than a 64 CF card. Another downside makes me a little nervous. I haven't had any issues with memory or writing to this camera, but shooting weddings, it's nice to say I'm making a backup instantly when you're shooting with a Canon camera or one of the other DSLRs that offers 2 card slots. And not doing that there, it's a little, is it the end of the world? No. But it makes me a little nervous.
And because this show isn't nerdy enough, there's a photo from space.
Well, the photos from space segment. Yes, we've got the Hubble Space Telescope is 25 years old. I think that actually happened a few weeks ago, but we've got some other pictures from it, 17 of Hubble's greatest images, and this site has a pop-up. Are we sharing? Yeah, this site has a pop-up that is broken, and I can't seem to close. Maybe if I say run plugin, it will let me. What if I click away from it? What if I hit escape? No. That's helpful, bbc.com. Thank you for ruining our pictures from space segment. We can see them back there. They are a little darker because of this. What if I click like around where a close button would be?
No, your best bet is refreshing, I think.
Refreshing is my best bet. It's gonna come back, I know it is.
Well, it is gonna come back, but maybe it won't be broken. How about you run it?
I did click that before. Let's see.
Right now, can you click it right now?
Ooh, how about we just look at them right now because they're there. There's some
pretty.
amazing pictures. I want you to go look through them if you wish this show was as nerdy as I do. What would you like to add? If you could add any segment to the show that we cover.
I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the way the show is right
Would it be pictures of kittens?
I wouldn't mind pictures of kittens.
Yeah, see, you give a little snort like, how dare you? But you would like that.
Well, I just don't want to be reduced to like kittens.
It's when you make a sitcom, you need like characters that fill certain roles. There's the character that loves kitten role. That's your role.
Okay. I'll be the crazy cat lady.
That's different. All right. That's a wrap up of our news.
That is. And now we're going to move on to announce our Instagram winners for this week, or this past week. The challenge was blue. And you guys submitted some really cool pictures. Hey, just before we get on to that, if you're enjoying this live broadcast, give us a thumbs up. It helps to let other people know that they should watch this, and helps our show.
What if they're not watching the live broadcast? If it's after the fact, should they still give it a thumbs up?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I agree.
Yeah.
Always appreciated.
And
and a reminder, on that note, a reminder that all of your wonderful comments that are happening right now during the live show, those go away after the fact. So if you have a particularly interesting point you would like to make and share with the world, or at least me, because I do read those comments, come back afterwards and leave a comment, please. Thank you. All right. So we've got
your winner?
my winner.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner?
Exactly. I picked Tony Lawrence's macro shot of water drops. Reminded me of the first time we tried this. Remember in the old apartment? I think I had rented the 100mm macro, and we just got crummy shot after crummy shot after crummy shot. Well
done.
He's got a great shot. It's very blue. I like it. It's a nice shot. Good job, Tony. Thank you. Now I've got an honorable mention right here. And I think I already had it open. And this is Julia F. Campanella's, who's a Vermonter, by the way. I found out. See, she had New England photograph. I just like this. It's just so simple. I think I wish it was a square, but it's nice. So, and then we have my other honorable mention is Terrellina's pictures of her little girl and a little friend, I think, in the Baltimore Aquarium, which I've been to. Is a fun place. And just this blueness of the shot in this cute moment. I think it's nice. Thank you for everybody who participated. Let's move on to Christina's winner now. David Stalls.
I love the sense of scale that this picture has, and it's very blue without it looking like it was, tinted blue, or there was any kind of processing applied to it. It's still really, really blue, so I love it.
Yep, that's a great shot. Thank you, David. And you've got two honorable mentions. The first,
it's just a really cool picture of the moon, and I like the contrast of the orange and the blue. Yeah.
Yep, it's very nicely done, nicely exposed moon. Can be difficult to get that at times. And Ursula's.
I like this one a lot because it's not something that we see all the time that people post. So the picture is great. I love all the work that you did to make the milk look like it's coming out of the bottle with no one holding it. That's really cool. So yeah, thanks for submitting, Ursula.
It's very nicely done.
And there is blue in it. So
there is blue. The milk looks a little blue too, but maybe it's blueberry soy milk. I bet that would be delicious. Thank you so much for everybody who participated, submitted. We look through all of them,
yes.
And we have a lot of fun in it, and it's often very difficult to pick. Sometimes we're a little bit arbitrary about it, but we're the ones picking, so we're allowed to do that.
Yeah. And if you want to participate in the Instagram challenge along with everybody else, take a picture of a portrait. So that's the challenge.
Take a picture of a portrait?
Well, okay, no, don't take a picture of a portrait. Let me start over. So next week's challenge is portraits. So let me just read Roy's, because I think it was Roy's idea. I just want to read his little description. So it can be a self-portrait, a portrait, a headshot, not a selfie, unless it's a good one. A self-portrait would be nice, but if you want to photograph other people, that's fine.
Well, let me ask you, what's the difference between a self-portrait and a selfie?
Well, selfie is short for self-portrait. But selfie has the connotation that it's like you just hold your camera up and then you just take a really quick picture with your phone or something like that, you know? So, but if it's, like, you gotta put a little bit of thought into it. Otherwise, I mean, or you can just take a selfie, and we probably won't pick it, but, you know, unless it's like an awesome, really quick selfie, but I don't know. So, yeah, and if you want to follow us on Instagram, our usernames are on the screen right now. Mine is just my name, Christina Bernalis, and Toby is distracted.
And I'm Photorec Toby.
Yep.
I was just getting excited about questions I saw coming up.
Great.
You missed the chance a minute ago to blow everybody's mind when you said, let me start over. Then you should have said, hi, I'm Christina Bernalis. Welcome to episode 68. And then just start going in. That would have been
pretty funny.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to seeing your portrait pictures and things of that sort.
Great. So I think we're going to move on to our live Q&A because we're not going to push this whole, like, you know, camera working really well.
I know. I really would love to get up from my chair. I'd love to have wireless mic systems for this so that I could get up from my chair and see how it's doing. But I'm not worried about it overheating, really. I really think my fan system is top notch. I got a clamped, a little USB fan that's powered to the wall, blowing on the back of the camera. It doesn't take much. I'm curious to see what battery is like. I have it plugged into a USB battery, but I noticed the other day when I did the 37-minute recording, even though it was plugged into USB battery, even though the indicator showed that it was plugged in, the battery did drain during that recording session. So probably during the closed session, hang around for the closed session. That's the part where we stop recording, but keep broadcasting live to anybody who wants to stick around and talk about things like how I was taking shots of fish oil every morning in Iceland. Stuff like that. But first, let's get back to practical and answering some of your questions. The first one from Jeffrey. Sorry, were you going?
No, go
First
ahead.
one from Jeffrey. Have you found a good flash for the Sony? No. I haven't even begun looking. That is another issue with using this camera for wedding work. You are a little bit more limited. I believe you can work with some of the young newest systems. You can put a remote on here, but as far as just throwing a flash up on top, I have to do some research, and I will be researching that. Roger says he hasn't seen a bad review of the Sony A7R II. I mean, you know, I tell you, when you pay $3,200, it better be good. I mean, I guess you could get bad reviews because people could say this camera is certainly not worth its, you know, $3,200, but it's a very nice camera. But why isn't it recommended for birds in flight? A couple of reasons, Roger. One, you have limited lens selection. The longest Sony lens we have right now, oh, do they have 1:400? Do they have a 100-400? They might have a 100-400 now. So that's decent. But beyond that, you don't have any native lenses and you only have that one 100-400 option. Whereas if you're shooting with a Canon, like say the 7D Mark II, you've got Tamron, 2 Sigmas, Canon. You've got a lot of different options for focus, for long lenses. So that's first issue, lens selection and longer focal length lenses. Oh, and you don't have any of the fast primes. I didn't even mention those. So fast telephoto primes for Canon, for Nikon, nowhere to be seen on the Sony side. Yes, through adapters you could shoot them, but then that focus, you know, not quite there. So that's the other issue. The focus is not quite there. It's good. I did for fun as some gulls were going by and some of the bird that starts with a K and some terns. It was really amazing being in Iceland and seeing some of the bird life that, you know, I've seen in bird books and stuff, European.
Gannets?
Gannets, that's right. And I told you and you remembered.
I remember.
It impressed me at times, but still not reliable to capture birds in flight and to fire off. It's only 5 frames per second. You know, if you're spending this much on a camera and you really want to get birds in flight, you've got much better options, like the 7D Mark II. You know, you don't get as much megapixels, but you got a faster burst rate, faster, more capable tracking autofocus system, and you got a huge lens selection. That's why. James says he's got the Canon 70D with the 18-135 kit, the 10-18, the 55-250, the new 50-50, and the 24 prime. What do you think the next lens should be? 24-70, question mark?
James, you should go out and take pictures.
Yeah. Spend your money on a nice trip.
Yes, That's a great idea.
I know. It's here. I am sitting at the table with a really expensive piece of gear that I very recently bought and didn't need this.
No.
But also, it's an investment for this channel and for the information I bring to you. And for me, it serves several purposes. I'm being a little defensive here, but
well, the thing is,
take this gear and go out and do something with it.
Yeah.
Corey, who came on the Iceland trip, a couple of weeks earlier, took that advice, and went on a road trip up the Pacific Northwest, shooting with what he had, and had a fantastic time. You're going to get better, amazing images shooting with what you have if you go out there, start shooting.
And find beautiful places to photograph.
Find beautiful places to photograph, yeah.
So try that, and if you really, really, really want to buy a new lens, like the 85.
Well, I'm reluctant to just recommend the 85 because that's a fairly specific lens.
But he's got all of these focal lengths covered. The 18 to 135, 55 to 250, 10 to 18, 24 millimeter prime. I mean, there's nothing really here that's different.
Right. You got some overlap, and the 24 to 70 is a really nice focal range.
But it's gonna be the same focal length that you have available with at least two of those other lenses. So
partly, yes. But if you're talking about the f4 or the f2.8, probably the f4 affordable lens, it gives you image stabilization, it gives you a little bit of macro capability, and it's going to give you better color and contrast. We're talking about an L lens compared to the kit lens 18 to 135, which I have a video that talks about why I think most people should buy a camera with a kit lens. But if you're looking to upgrade, the 24 to 70 does represent a noticeable upgrade. I don't love shooting starting at 24 on a full frame. On a crop sensor.
That's why he's got the 18 to 35 though.
That's
or
right.
135.
Or the 10 to 18. You're fine. So yeah. Deepak wants to know if I'll be testing the Panasonic G7. Yes, I'd like to. Seems like a nice. Is that? Yes, I'd like to. That's all I'm going to say right now. It's on my list of cameras that I think are worth talking about in the future.
Yeah. Here's one thing though to add to that. So you do a lot of reviews.
Yes.
And I constantly nag about. I wouldn't say actually nag. I think I make very valid points.
You did say nag.
I did say, but I'm taking it back. I make very valid points about doing more tutorial videos, which is really what we want. We really want to do that. But they take a little bit more work to produce than review videos.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. But we would like to know what you guys want to learn. So if you have something in particular that we don't have, we haven't taught in the channel, or that you would like to learn about, leave it in the comments so that we have some ideas and start making stuff for you guys. Be very specific. Try to be specific. If it's related to like portrait photography, like what specifically about portrait photography do you have questions about, or wildlife photography, like are there specific questions that you have? And this will sort of give us an idea of like what your skill level is, and then also what sort of things we should cover. So just wanted to add that in there. Make sure that you leave that in the comments if you're watching.
Yep. Was Trevor being funny when he said drop on a comm light in the new Sigma Super Telephoto? That is not going to give you good results. I found the Sigma lenses to be a little bit more finicky about which adapters you're using, and it's apparent why Metabones charges more. You get better results across the board, focus and things of that sort. Deepak also wants to know that, he said, Tony Northrup mentions DxO mark scores often. What do I think about that? Well, Tony can do whatever he wants. I don't love the DxO mark scores because people grab onto these numbers and then come to me and ask questions and be like, this has got a 72, this has got a 71. And in real world photography, it's just the small differences, or even what seems like a large difference in numbers, very rarely translates to something that you're going to see often. We are not pushing these cameras to the limit that they do in the testing lab. And I want you to pick the cameras on the features that work for you and the accessory systems and ecosystem that it all works in, and not get so caught up in these numbers.
Yeah.
That said, sometimes they can be useful to figure out if the camera is a decent value or not. But again, there's so many other variables that to me matter more.
Yeah, the thing is that if you took a picture with this camera and you took a picture with this camera of the same thing, like even using different lenses, like maybe similar focal lengths, because that does change the appearance of it, and you put them side by side, you edit them with the same software, you're not really going to be able to tell a noticeable difference. And so to get caught up, which we do feel like some people do, get caught up on like just comparing these very minute, like very technical, very just specific differences, or not specific, but these very minute differences. It just doesn't encourage you to go out and shoot, which is what is really going to improve your photography as opposed to like buying a new camera.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So yeah, but I mean, definitely look at the scores and
or not
compare. I mean, well, we look at the scores.
Do we?
We have in the past, and it's sort of disappointing to see that Canon cameras, like they rate
on
pretty
some measurements, yeah.
Yeah, on some measurements. So it sort of is, I think, you know, it reflects on what's happening with Canon and really what they're not doing with their cameras. So there is something to get out of those scores. But as far as like being the decisive factor in making a purchase camera-wise, lens-wise, I just don't think that I don't think that it's worthwhile to consider those like in that way. So anyway.
Yep.
Next question.
Okay, Mikhail wants to know what does lens sharpness is overrated? Again, I think the gist of this question is similar to the DxO Mark scores. We are not pushing these camera and lenses. I mean, what are we doing? What are you, honestly ask yourself, what are you doing with 95% of the pictures you're making? 99% of you out there are putting them up on Facebook and Instagram. You're not making prints bigger than 8x10. Are you really making a lot of prints bigger than 8x10? And even at that level, with the post-processing and all the other stuff, it's not that big a deal. I mean, I did just make fun of them putting a 50 f1.4 on the 5D SR, but only because Canon themselves said it's not one of the lenses that's recommended on the list. Just think it was kind of funny that they happened to show that. So again, yeah, it's overrated. Learn how to shoot, learn how to post-process a little bit. You can get just as good pictures with.
So, but actually this question came after a series of other questions that Mikhail had asked previously in the chat that I was kind of watching. And he says that you say that lens sharpness is overrated, and is it subjective? Which I think is a valid question and probably a good question. I don't think it's subjective. I don't think so. I think that the discussion about gear and gear quality has come to a point where we are talking, again, just to reiterate, about very minute differences between lenses. So I don't think that it is subjective, because you can clearly tell the difference between a lens that is soft and a lens that is sharp. But, you know, once it's actually displayed, once the photo is displayed, like whether on Instagram or social media or even printed, I mean, you can't really tell the difference. You can't. So again, to get hung up on that, I think people, and I've done this too, people use gear acquisition or lack of a specific piece of gear to sort of compensate for the fact that they aren't taking the photos that they wish that they were taking.
Preach it, lady.
Which is to say that you should just go out and shoot more. And I'm not saying that they're taking bad pictures. I'm just saying that they're not where they want to be, and that's only going to come as a result of you going out there and taking pictures. Right. So
there are exceptions to this, and somebody out there might be like, well, why do you guys have XX and X, expensive gear?
Well, because well, one, you review a lot of it, so we need to have a lot of gear so we can tell you guys about it. But also, yeah, I mean, I think that I could take the same pictures with like the 5D Mark II and the 5D Mark III? Yeah, pretty close. Like, I don't think that...
Well, I mean, I think I can defend us in this, it's because we are professionals, and you need to go into an environment and be able to focus quickly and accurately and make shots.
Right.
And like the 5D Mark III has an advantage over the 5D Mark II in focus. Right. And using a lens like the 85 f1.2 allows you to get shots in lower light.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there are advantages to more expensive pieces of gear at times. But generally, I agree 100% with what you say.
Right. So that is actually a good point that I hadn't considered, because yes, we are looking at, by comparing the scores and by looking at the different sharpness of lenses, we are comparing whether or not one is sharper than the other, as opposed to the features that actually set one lens apart from the other, which is what you said. So some lenses will be faster, which means that they allow more light. Some cameras would not only have a larger full-frame sensor, but they also have a more advanced focusing system. So those are the differences that make the cameras, you know, what they are, and that you should be considering, you know, your purchase, or to purchase. So yeah, I mean, we could go on and about this, and again, that's not to say that you shouldn't consider all the information, but just don't get
And I see somebody asking, are these humongous megapixel cameras really necessary? I mean, you could say no, but at the same time, gosh, it's really nice if I take a landscape shot and then I'm like, ooh, that looks better in portrait. I can crop it to a portrait, and it's still got so many megapixels for a decent print if I wanted to do that.
Thing is, though, where does it end? Because, you know, storage is getting cheaper and more efficient, and cameras, you know, the megapixels are getting bigger and the files are getting bigger. So are we just gonna reach a point where, like, we're not gonna be printing these as billboards? Like, the space in our homes doesn't increase, you know, in direct relation to the...
Cover every wall with a life-size...
So at what point do we stop? I mean, so there's the cropping advantage, but like, say that cameras start, you know, like, once we get to 80 megapixels, is that really gonna be a factor?
We have some cameras. We have some of those medium formats.
Well, no, I understand, but they're not really accessible to most people.
Right, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Andrew George wants to know about a dry cabinet for their cameras. Sorry, I have no idea about that. You write me an email, maybe we can do a little research together and work on it, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that, do people really need dry cabinets? Unless, you know, your house is like super humid. My advice to you would be to check out like IKEA or the Container Store and look for some decent storage solutions, and maybe put in some silica packs and some baskets and bins and stuff, and organize your gear that way. Yep. I don't think that's necessary.
If you lived in Iceland and you went out in the rain a lot, Steve got his so wet that he had moisture under the screen. He had moisture deep inside the lens. Whew. It never feels good when you got it like that, but you know, you're there, you want to get out, you want to shoot. He had protected the camera with the rain sleeve, but moisture finds its ways in. Deepak says, did you appreciate the night skies in Iceland? It was cloudy, and the sun was up for so late. I probably could have, if I really had been motivated, tried to get up at 2 in the morning, but it never ever seemed really dark. The one night that it was the most clear, we were far away from, well, we were pretty much far away from city lights the whole time, but at, what was it? We were going to bed right about midnight, and I happened to look out the window, and there was the sunset glow still. Almost midnight. It's pretty amazing. So, you know, I did not appreciate the night skies. I appreciated the amazingness of being so far north in the summer and having that crazy long sun sky stuff. You know, we were out, that night we'd actually been out close to 10 shooting the sunset in the clouds.
It's pretty crazy.
Eugene says he just checked into the live stream. Did they replace the video camera with something else? Yes, we used to use the GH4. The GH4 is just finished its tour of the United States. You can rewind and watch the beginning of my little rant about UPS, and we are currently filming with an A7R Mark II.
Which might be a keeper.
Well, we're keeping it. I don't know.
I mean, like for broadcast.
For the broadcast, yeah. It's certainly nice working with full frame because we're so comfortable with full frame. We're kind of limited in the space here, and
yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a little bit of extra.
Yeah. The GH4, that's the downside of the GH4. I love the GH4, how small, easy, light, and the battery life is fantastic. That's a big difference. McCall's got another question. What's the difference between the Canon 430EX Mark II and Mark III? They've put the radio transmitter in Mark III. So that means that if you've got a 600 or another 430 or their Canon radio transmitter, you can talk to that flash wirelessly with radio. Canon calls most of their flash systems wireless and says their 70D is wireless, but they mean optically wireless, where it has a little flash that triggers the other flashes. This is radio, no pre-flashes, no other flashes. Pretty slick, very reliable, reliable outside in bright light, reliable inside, reliable over long distances. Significant upgrade from the original 430 and the other flashes if you need that remote flash capability. If you don't, just get the 2, save the money. Wiki Wicklet wants to know what menu settings on the A7R Mark II did I use. I don't know what you mean. I used a lot of
what?
Yeah, I used a lot of the menu system. I will be coming out with a video showing how I've set up the customization buttons. I don't know if I've settled into that yet. And please note, you know, again, I think you're getting this, but I'm not saying this is a perfect camera. There are a couple niggly little annoyances, you know, because this camera is so nice. All of these buttons, I have them memorized. I have them memorized what they do in the dark. You know those war movies where the guys like blindfold, undo their camera, their gun, and put it back together.
I mean, that's kind of my argument for, you know, sticking with Canon too. It's that I'm just so familiar with the controls, and I don't have to like go around digging for stuff. Like I know how to zoom.
You would get used to it.
I know I would, but it's just not as accessible.
Yeah. So I'll be talking more about the menu and stuff on the Sony. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of features packed into this camera, and there should be for this price again, that I have not touched yet, but I'll be talking about them. Amy Arts Ente wants to know, is there a solution to get 2K raw video on the 700D by using Magic Lantern? I believe you can shoot Magic Raw with a 700D, but I don't know. So if you're asking, that might mean that you can't, so I don't know. I know you can with the 5D Mark III. The practicality of shooting with it is not great. You know how to edit that? It's work. I've never done that second part of it. I've just kind of been like, ooh, proof of concept, you can do it. So, sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. I think at 7:23 we're gonna wrap up this show part thing here.
Great.
Move into the closed section where I get up for a moment and let everybody know.
It's not the closed section, it's the after show.
It's the after show, where I let everybody know how the Sony is doing. Tony's got that cool little thermometer. He points at stuff and he knows how hot it is. I don't have that. I'm just gonna put my finger on it and say, ooh, it feels pretty hot. Or it feels very, very, very warm. Let's see.
Some might say hot.
I'm hot. I'm starting to sweat.
Okay, well, we hope that you have enjoyed the show.
I don't know why you would.
And we'll be back next week, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come back for some more news, to have your questions answered, to
participate in our Instagram challenge this week.
Yes, yep.
Portrait. Selfies allowed, but they probably won't be picked a winner unless they're really good and clever. Concentrate on the portrait side of things. I think that's better. Thumbs up. Did you say that?
Thumbs up. If you haven't
There's
already.
one other thing I was going to say, but I can't remember.
Thank you for watching. And if you haven't already, subscribe.
Yeah, push that subscribe button.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right.